Hi, this is Jeff with Cloud NC, and I'm going to walk you through the onboarding process for Cam Assist for Mastercam today. So you probably got the link here for the download of Cam Assist for Mastercam. So on the download page, you're going to choose either Cam Assist for Mastercam 2025 or 2024. I'll choose 2025, and you can see that it's being downloaded here. Once the download is complete, I'll run the installer. So here it is here. And while you're running the installer, it's a good idea to close Mastercam first. I've already got it closed, but if you do have it open, you will get a message here asking you to close it. I'm going to be saving all of my default locations here for things like the tools folder. So I'm just going to run through and click those buttons, and you can see it runs very quickly. And then at the end of it, I'm going to hit the Run Mastercam button. So with the check mark selected, it's going to launch Mastercam. And with the installation, there's going to be a time where you'll have to come back to this page when we periodically put out an update. So I currently installed the 1.3.1. When there'll be an update to 1.4, you'll be asked to come back to this page and get the next update. So now that Mastercam is open, I can see that I've got Cloud NC up here in the top ribbon. If I click on that, I'll have some icons showing up here. And for the first time I run Cam Assist, I'm going to need to authenticate in. So your first step really should be to do that authentication process at this point. So you do that by launching Cam Assist. So I'm going to hit the first icon there, and it's taking me to the authentication page. Now I've already logged in, so it's already giving me this message. But if you don't have that message, you'll probably get the Mastercam login page, and you'll just either have to enter your email and password, and that's the email that you've hooked up to your Cam Assist account. And if you don't have that established, we might need to do some changes on our end or through the reseller to get you get your credentials in. But once that's all set up, you'll be able to get a message like this saying you're successfully logged in. And then if we go back to Mastercam now, it's giving me a message because I didn't have a file loaded. So you can come in now and open up Cam Assist when you have a part. So if I open up a demo part, just to walk you through the basics here. So now I've got this demo part. It's got machine groups already configured. And if I open Cam Assist again, setting that top button, it's going to say it's checking for updates and then load into Cam Assist. So to get to this view, you have to have that authentication and be logged into our service. So just to go through what we have under that drop-down menu, we've got the application itself, Cam Assist. You've got your account settings here, My Account. So if you wanted to log out, you could do that here, and it's going to give you some other information at times. And then we have our documentation. So of course, all of the documentation, the things that we don't cover here in this brief onboarding video will be covered in the documentation. And there are things in here like videos and step-by-step installation for this things that we've already covered in the video here. But that's all available through that drop-down menu. And then the feedback and support. So if you do encounter an issue, we encourage you to go through your resellers, but if you'd like to report something directly, you can always come in and do that step too. So, and then we had open our demo part, so we've done that as well. And then the about here, this is going to show you the version, our terms and conditions. So if you have questions about the license or how we're handling your data, that's all here as well. There is another button to our privacy and conditions and our user guide that we just looked at and the download page. And then the cutting parameters explorer here, this won't really be in effect until we have some toolpaths on our job. So we'll cover that in a minute. Okay, so I've opened up a different part here, a little more complicated than the demo parts. And we've got a set of operations already defined, or machine groups. So just to go over what we expect in the machine group, if I click on the stock setup here, For Cam Assist to run, we need to have a master model. So that's just that top model. And then we have our stock. So we've got that defined here. Currently, we support bounding box and rectangular stock. And then we've got our work holding here. So that's our fixtures. So we can check those on. That's for op1. And then if we look at op2, we've got the same master model and stock selection, as well as fixtures. So if you're importing a step file and opening that up in Mastercam, the first thing you'll want to do is set the machine, mill, default, and then once you have that machine group set up, let's just do that here on this part to set up a new one. I just pick default. Of course, you'll pick your own machine, and then you'll come in to the stock setup, pick your master model, and you'll define your stock. So I'll typically use a bounding box, hit the picker, hit the stock, and my selection, and then I can make adjustments to the size here if I need to. In this case, that was a bit of an extra machine group, so we're just going to get rid of this one. So the reason that we use a machine group is so that we can define separate fixtures in a case like this where we're running op1 and then we're creating some soft jaws for op2 to hold our part. Okay, so let's run through Cam Assist now. So I'm going to go to the top, hit Cloud NC, hit the add-in, and hit Cam Assist. So the checking for updates there that shows up, that's checking to see if there's a new version available. If there is, then you'll get notified and asked to download the new version. And that might happen in your trial period or in the first few weeks of using Cam Assist, then you'll get used to the process. Our update process doesn't actually sync up to what Mastercam is doing, so there'll be probably more frequent updates in Cam Assist itself. All right, the first thing we're going to do here is pick our tool library. So in the tool library section, we can pick up to 5 tool libraries to use. I've got the default selected from one of the ones that's installed with Cam Assist. So we install a inch and metric library. And if we just go back to the default location there, see users, public documents, shared Mastercam 2025. If you're using 2024, it'll be in the 2024 folder, and then tools, mill tools, and Cam Assist. So we can also add in additional libraries if we need to. So if we want to add in another one, we hit the plus sign. And then if we want to take one off, we use the minus sign. We have to keep at least one in there, so I can't actually minus this one off. I'm going to do this part in my mode here. It's going to be 3+2 because we have features on the side. If we look at op1, look at it like that. And then the benefit of doing the two setups together is you'll get the benefit of rest machining between those two operations. So for both of these parts, I'm just going to stick to the aligned XYZ, which will automatically create toolpaths around the 5 visible sides of the stop cube, basically. And then if we look at our tool use, I'm going to pick, it's got the library selection as well. So this is actually to toggle between the selections I have here. So I pick my libraries that I'm using. In this case, I only have one in this dropdown. If I had more than one here, they would show up here. And then I've got my tool summary here. Notice that we are using tool assemblies, not just tools. So that's the tool plus the holder. And then we've got a material selection. So I've got this here. And my alloys. So if I had a different material, stainless steel, I'll have a different selection of alloys to choose from. Let's run this part in aluminum, and we'll pick with the generic. So with generic, you can see down here in this tool library, if I hover over these, it's saying that I have a preset defined. So what is a preset? A preset is a defined value in the tool manager. So just a quick look at the tool manager. If we look at how that's arranged, now this is it is a can be a bit daunting when you first look at your tool libraries all together like this. And do you have to go in and put all these values in? No, you do not. This is only if you want to set specific parameters for specific tools in specific materials for specific applications. Some shops will want to go through and do this process for all of their tools and all of their applications. We also can calculate the values in Cam Assist from cutting parameters. So our cutting parameters algorithm actually calculates these values. So if I switch this to a different material, and I hover over the SS here for stainless steel, it says there's no matching presets. So Cam Assist is going to generate the cutting parameters. We're actually going to calculate the cutting parameters for all toolpaths and then only apply the preset if it exists in the library here and if you've got either this or this selected in the cutting parameters. Hopefully that makes sense. It'll be a little clearer as you go forward. The main thing you'll have to do probably is deal with the fact that you might not have assemblies, you might only have tools. So we have um, uh, some help that we can offer to get you to the point where you have assemblies from your tools. And then another thing for custom tool libraries, for your own tool libraries, Cam Assist is really looking to match this stock material, these 5 selections, to what is available here in the materials. So we recommend that you basically select all of these, copy them into your own library so that the materials match up, and then these are actually used in the cut parameters in this field here in the material column. So this selection is actually a drop down from the materials column. So in order for Cam Assist to basically read your tools effectively and what is it it's expecting that to see those values in the materials column. All right, so let's close that temporarily and we go back to tool use. I'm switching that back to aluminum, generic. Under my advanced tab here, these are the toolpath types Cam Assist will use. So we've got face milling down through deburring. You can check or uncheck these values as you see fit. So in some shops, you might not do spot drilling, for instance, so we can uncheck that. And then for geometry, I'm going to do the full part. I'll have this hole patching checked. And what that does is basically create surface bodies over some of those holes so that the roughing passes will bypass them and not go in or around them. All right, with all my properties set here, I'm going to hit run. So now Cam Assist is taking the data from the machine group, the part itself, and the selected tool libraries, and calculating how it's going to approach that part. It's developing its own strategy using its artificial intelligence. So it's analyzing the full part and the features that are found, the constraints of the fixtures and other constraints. And it's going through and iterating and finding solutions and then choosing with artificial intelligence the most appropriate strategies that it can. It'll then take those strategies and map them back to Mastercam once they start generating. So I'll probably skip ahead a little bit in the video here while that calculation takes place. Okay, as you can see now, we've got toolpaths coming into Mastercam and we've just concluded. So we've got 43 operations, 186 of 186 surfaces. I'm going to hit no here. This is to the choice on how I want to run the operations, how I want to calculate them in Mastercam once Cam Assist is done. So I'm just going to leave them dirty. So I'll hit no. And if we go up and we can see that we've got these dirty toolpaths, but we've got operations for facing, down through deburring for op1, and for op2 we've got roughing, and down to deburring. So the reason I didn't calculate them right away is just for productivity and time. I can still come in and examine those toolpaths. So if I wanted to make adjustments to them prior to generating them, I can do that. So if I look at toolpath number 5 here, I can check the parameters in Mastercam. So if I was wanting to look at maybe my feed rates and things like that, I could check that here. I could also look at the same toolpath through the eyes of Cam Assist cutting parameters. So by clicking on that, right-clicking, and then picking the Cutting Parameters Explorer, I've got toolpath number 5 selected in my operation. I've got my material, so I could actually change the material here if I wanted. The machine properties coming through, the tool properties coming through, and the application properties. So all these parameters and variables are going to be used in this calculation of the feeds and speeds. And that's how we're calculating the feeds and speeds that go into the calculation initially. So these are what was derived prior to the preset being applied. Remember the preset coming from the tool manager cut parameters at the end. So this is the preset here. So because we ran this one in a generic aluminum, and here's a generic aluminum preset, Cam Assist is actually overriding these. We actually generated these from the cutting parameters to begin with, so it's a bit of a one-to-one, but the idea here is that this is how you could override what we're calculating. But that said, I could then override those overrides again by coming in and making adjustments. So if I wanted to be more conservative, more concerned with tool life, or wanted to be more aggressive and productive, I could make this adjustment here in this course slider. I can see the diagram shows those updates. And then if I look at the heat map here, it shows a view of how that calculation is proceeding with regard to those variables as well. If I want to make adjustments, I can do them in a fine manner as well. So if I want to take the chip load and be more constrained in my range, I can do that. And then if I want to apply them, I can view the values. I can actually modify them again here. So if I wanted to be a little, give the chip load a little bit more of a value, I could do that here, or pardon me, feet per tooth. And then I can update. So that's updated this toolpath. It still requires regeneration. So I can do that either at this stage or I can do it after it's been calculated. What I'm going to do next is select all the toolpaths and generate them in Mastercam so we can view the output. So I'll just skip ahead in the video just slightly. Okay, so we've calculated the toolpaths now in Mastercam. I had the multi-thread manager open to see that calculation. So that's just under the view menu. You're probably familiar with that already. You can close that down. So let's examine the results. So we've got in op1, just make sure we're in op1. We've got all the toolpaths showing up there. If we look at the facing, we can see those parameters there. And then roughing. So we've got our stock model for the first version. Cam Assist does add stock models in for these roughing operations. And then our first OptiRest, and then our stock model. And then we do flat finishing. That's the toolpath that we already made some modifications to with cutting parameters. And then we've got our wall finishing and our contour operations in the wall. Hole making. So we do helical boring in the larger holes and drilling in the smaller holes. I think we had spot drilling turned off as an option. And then deburring. So of course we could run the verification to check those as well. Let's just look at op2. Let me go back to the stock model. So there's a stock model in the soft jaws as we'd expect. And then after this operation, we end up with this, and so forth as we go down the roughing operations. So there's our after all the roughing, and then we have our flat finishing and our wall finishing and our hole making. So our last holes there on the top. And freeform, we've got a little bit of freeform there on those fillets in that bottom corner. And then chamfering. Chamfering has some interesting views in the cutting parameters explorer if we look at that. So we've got a different diagram, and then if I look at the depth of cut and make alterations there, you can see the diagram does update. So if I go more extreme, so we can see how the tool is engaging in the middle of the cutting edge, not at the tip. And again, once again, if we wanted to save that out, we could. I'm not going to in this case. And then we have our deburring. So that was a brief introduction to using Cam Assist. Remember that it's good for 3-axis and 3+2. So we did 3+2 in this case. And then in this case, we've also generated some soft jaws and had those machined as well. And we can cover that in a separate video. So if you have any questions, do contact your resellers, and don't be afraid to reach out using the tools in the menu here for feedback and support. Thanks a lot.